first thing is on behalf of the board, we acknowledge that York Region is located on traditional territory of many indigenous people, including the Anishinaabe, Honanoshi, Huron-Wendat, and the Métis people, and the treaty territories of Honanoshi, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and William Treaty First Nation. This area is home to many diverse indigenous peoples, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgian Island, the First Nation, as our closest First Nation community. So I'm going to turn it over to Anitra now.
Thank you, Chair Emerson. In accordance with Section 28 of the Police Services Act and the board's procedure bylaw, I will act as presiding officer until the board elects its chair and vice chair for 2024. We will now proceed with the election of the board chair, and I now invite nominations for the position of chair of the board. Do I have a nomination? Okay. Walter? Okay. And do I have a second for that nomination? Are there any other nominations? Okay. And Regional Chair Emerson, do you consent to your nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any further nominations after his consent? Okay. If there are no nominations, is there a motion that nominations for the position of chair be closed? Okay. Do I have a seconder? All in favor? Okay. Is there a motion that Regional Chair Emerson be elected as chair of the Police Services Board until the board's first meeting in January 2025? Okay. And a seconder, please. Walter. All in favor? I declare Regional Chair Emerson as chair of the Police Services Board until the first board meeting of 2025. Congratulations, Chair Emerson.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. And yeah, we got a lot of work to do in 2024 and looking forward to it. So now I'll open the floor to chair of the, I now invite nominations for the vice chair of the board. Walter? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Mario. Mayor Pellegrini, do you consent to the nomination, sir?
With thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations at this time? Being none, is there a motion that nominations be closed? Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Linda. Thank you. All those in favor? And is there the motion to that Mayor Pellegrini be appointed as vice chair of Police Services Board 2025? Thank you, Madeline. Second, 20. Sorry, until the first meeting in 25. Thanks. Thank you. You watch out. Thank you. You caught me. I knew you would. It's okay. All those in favor? Against? The motion is carried. Mayor Pellegrini, do you accept you accepted that? So now I declare Mayor Pellegrini as the vice chair of the Police Services Board. Good. Thank you. Thank you both. And thank you, board, for allowing us to continue on with the work we're doing. So let's get right into the board. Any disclosure of interest at this time? Confirmation of public minutes of November 22nd, 2023. Thanks, Norman. Thanks, Madeline. Questions on the minutes? Any questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Against? The motion is carried. Nitra has an introduction of a new new staff person. Go ahead, Nitra.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce the board's new policy analyst, Ryan Kelly. Please stand up, Ryan, just everyone can see you. Ryan is an experienced policy and political professional who has worked in both the public and private sectors and has extensive knowledge working in various provincial ministries, cabinet offices, and the legislature, as well as experience at the constituency level municipal government. He has facilitated stakeholder and community engagement, and most notably as part of his constituency work and as ministerial staff. He'll be an asset to the board as its policy analyst with the upcoming changes to the Police Services Act that will be taking effect this April. And he will also be vital to the work and policy changes to be made as part of the implementation plan of the board's Anti-Black Racism and Building Community Trust Committee. Ryan will also be taking on various advocacy work on behalf of the board. Most recently, we have been bringing up to speed on some of the work that the board has been doing on the Ontario Building Code, and Ryan has taken that on with quite a bit of enthusiasm. So please welcome him, and we look forward to working with you, Ryan, on these initiatives and seeing what you can do. Thank you.
Good. Welcome, sir. Anything you want to say at this time to the board? Good. Okay, welcome. Okay, there's no presentation, no deputations, and communication, 9.1 to 9.2, 9.3, 9.4. Are there any would like to talk about? Yeah, that's 9.5. Any of the 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4? Only those at this time? Any questions or concerns on those? There will be a report come in the February meeting on 9.4. So, pardon? Move off. Thanks, Linda. Seconder, Walter, thank you. All those in favor? Against, the motion is carried. 9.5 is a verbal provincial funding update from the chief. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I get into 9.5, you may or may not, but you may be wondering why we're wearing green epaulets today. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day. It's a national campaign to bring awareness to the issues of mental health, not only in first responders, but for everyone in the country. We actively participate in that campaign by wearing epaulets to acknowledge the issue. And as you all know, one of the top priorities for us has been wellness in our organization. We've done a great job. We continue to do some great work. And the theme for this year's Bell Let's Talk Day is Let's Create Real Change Around Mental Health. And we have an event at headquarters at 11 o'clock today where we'll be speaking about this as we do every year. So just wanted to let you know about that. In relation to 9.5, you would have seen, potentially would have seen, we had a press conference last Friday with many members of government and local government to announce some provincial funding, some new provincial funding in the amounts of $3.7 million to address three areas, which is Project United, which is a project to combat hate crime in the community, a $300,000 allotment for that. We have a bail compliance and warrant apprehension program and an enhanced bail enforcement program to the tune of $2.4 million. And this funding isn't new, but has been ongoing, which is the Next Gen 911 $1 million fund to enhance all of our needs as we move into 2025 when we see Next Gen 911 come to be. Interestingly enough, I just talked to one of our communicators not too far down the hall here who they're doing some active training on that Next Gen 911 right now. And our folks are loving it and really enthusiastic about the changes that will come about with this project. I just bring it to the board's attention more for awareness to know that, York Regional Police does a really good job of, where possible, applying for grant funding to the provincial government, who, as you've seen on numerous occasions, has released funding to advance public safety in the province. And we've had a lot of support, no different than many other police agencies across the province for some of these issues. I just highlight the bail compliance piece because, as you all know, bail, Bill C-48 and all of the work that's gone on through the Ontario Association of Chiefs, through police services across this province and in fact across the country, has really highlighted and shined a light on the issues around bail. So this funding will assist us with a lot of the work that needs to be done to enhance our bail programs and to continue to make sure the people that are causing harm to people in society, in particular to the many officers who've lost their lives at the hands of people on bail, repeat violent offenders and those carrying firearms, it will allow us to do a lot better and to do a lot more in this area to make sure people that shouldn't be on the street aren't on the street. And that will be a focus for us as we continue to move these projects forward. So I just wanted to bring some awareness to the board around the funding that goes on. There's funding in the amounts of $8.5 million for court and prisoner transportation, $6.1 million. These are grants that continue to roll year after year for the most part. One of them is Community Safety and Policing Grant as well. So, and there's various other grants to the tune of about $16 million that come to our organization through the funding through government. And it's just an awareness as we move into the new year and move through into budget for this year to know that we do our very best to where funds are available to apply and access those funds to continue to work on public safety here in York Region. Mr.
Okay.
Chair, that's about it from that, with subject to any questions.
Any questions? I want to thank Steve and Madeline and Muriel. They attended the funding announcement along with some MPPs, which was good. And even Mayor Maracas from the town of Aurora. So I'm going to ask Norma and Muriel to move receipt of list of verbal report at this time. All those in favor? Hence, the motion's carried. So the next one's consideration reports requiring separate discussion. We need to hold down 10.5. The chief would like to speak to that one. Are there any others that would like to be held down to speak to any of the consideration and adoption of the reports at this time? Any others at this time? Except we'll pull down 10.5. You want 10.5 too, Lynn? Okay. Any others? Okay, so I'll ask Muriel and Walter to move all those reports and at this time, except 10.5. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. Chief, you want to speak to 10.5? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start by turning it over to Anitra to lead the discussion on this report, and then from a policing perspective, if there's any questions about the technology or the issues around some of the specific operational issues, we can answer those questions as to whatever they are. So,
Just before Anitra, I think Linda and Mario are part of this committee, which is very good. Thank you for that. It's I think it's a work in progress. Go ahead, Anitra.
Okay. Thank you, Chief, and through the chair. Board members, as I hope you've had an opportunity to absorb the contents of this report, and what it sets out and builds upon is the initial discussions that were had in September during the initial budget review, and the question of how are police services and first responders managing their communications when they go into buildings. As we've delved into the matter further and working with YRP's staff, particularly their communications technical staff on this, we found that it's not just high-rise buildings, but it's many types of buildings because of the type of building material, the density, the advances in materials and construction. We're finding is that there have been some challenges with respect to using the regular radio communication system that we have, and also ensuring that we can have clear and reliable communication in emergent situations. What the report sets out from an advocacy perspective is the approach we've been taking. So back in November, at our last board meeting of 2023, there was a memo that came from my office to members outlining that we would be putting forward on behalf of the board a comment to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, because they had put forth a call for comment on Ontario's building code, which they are currently doing development on. And it's expected that that new edition of the building code should be ready around 2026, 2027. We determined that following on the board's determination to improve first responder communications in buildings, that this would be an opportunity to add very curated amendments to the Ontario Building Code with respect to life safety systems and communication systems. Using the expertise of our two board members who are sitting on this committee for advocacy, what we've learned is that there's already systems in place to support fire safety, and targeting those particular provisions in the Ontario Building Code would help us enhance the communications protocols far more quickly than if we were to just create a new section of the Ontario Building Code. So one of the steps we've already taken is to reach out to the minister's office to speak with their senior staff that would be looking after this aspect of the municipal affairs portfolio. And as you can see, it's been asked that the board consider a resolution in attachment 2 to take it to the minister, as well as the provincial associations, which both the chief and I have also approached on this matter, so that we can advocate as a collective. It's not just York, but York with the OAPSB and all of our sister police services, the OACP and all of the sister police services themselves, as well as the municipalities within York Region going forward. In addition to that, the board staff will be working through Deputy Hammond and her team with a willing partner to help us determine technical criteria that we can actually put in front of provincial staff to incorporate into the building code. Are there any questions?
You want to add anything else, Chief, at this time? Before I go to
It's time,
Linda?
Chairman.
Nope, Linda?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, all. Yeah, thank you. First off, I want to thank Anitra and staff with respect to this. I think when we discussed this in September, the issue of vertical response is really a serious issue and that we need to address. But looking at the resolution, a couple of things on it. I think, Anitra, you mentioned other, lower tier municipalities within York Region. In this resolution, it doesn't mention to copy them on this. I think it's important that it goes to the CBOs of those lower tier municipalities. I think we should add that to the motion. I can give you language around that later. But I also think, though, that in the first whereas, it's not strong enough. If you read the first whereas the regional municipality of York has been made aware, it's like, whoa, just to say, whereas the regional municipality of York, or realizes or appreciates challenges. I think instead of made aware, I think it just, in resolutions, you don't see that type of language. It has to just be a little bit more forceful with the language. So I would just say just a little bit of fine tuning on that. I think that this is extremely important. I think it's something that we, it's unfortunate. I know there is going to be revisions to the Ontario Building Code, but I think the key is to go through the fire, and I can't think of that law right now, but to get onto that. But I really think, though, that I know that we're going to be meeting with, or your staff is going to be meeting with Ontario Municipal. I think we just really need to get out and to get this awareness into our local building, our chief building officers within lower tier municipalities. And I understand that this issue is not just York, it's all over, but we are the Police Services Board that serves York Region. So why not get out there and start pounding the pavement and raising the awareness within our own lower tier municipalities, the 9 of them. So I don't know whether, I don't think that has to be part of a motion, but I do think the motion should be that that this resolution adding a number 3, that this would be distributed to all 9 municipalities within York Region, to the clerks. I think it's just important that they understand, and that may trigger questions to say, hey, what's this all about? Because a lot of times they just don't know there's a problem. So maybe this is something where we could maybe reach out and talk to the lower tier municipalities and get a CBO online and say, hey, maybe I'll find some builder like a Mario Cortellacci who would be willing to start trying this and going forward. I know that we have the technology. We have, in some buildings, we do have repeaters in them. So I just think that we just need to take that next step, just make this resolution a little bit more forceful. But I think it's great work. So thank you to all. And I believe that this is one of Ryan's first jobs that he worked on. So congratulations. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to add to this. I don't know if there's any other speakers. There was one other comment, and I normally have paper with me, and I'm having to go by memory today. I tell you.
So Linda, on the first one, I agree with you, has been made aware. Are you saying, should we change that to York Region Police Service, but is aware?
Yes.
Is aware of challenges experienced by York Regional Police, so we are aware.
Oh, there's the lawyer giving me dirty looks. Is that a good look or a bad look? I'm teasing.
But just
a
need the
bit.
wording. I think you're
I
right.
think it's the language, yeah. Solicitor.
Quite the contrary. I think it's a strong, and I have some thoughts on that, I think adding the word acutely aware and highly concerned based on your comments.
Yeah.
And the message that it will send possibly to the province and to our chief building officials as well to get behind this.
Yeah, I think that's really important. But maybe with that, because I keep talking about, I'm sorry, I say CBOs, but for those of you, it's Chief Building Officer. My apologies.
Chief Building
I'm
Official,
using
yep.
an acronym that you may not know.
Yep.
But maybe it's also to be distributed also to all the chief building officers within the lower tier municipality, maybe and hit them straight on. Because normally if these resolutions go around, they generally go to the clerk and
Yeah.
then the clerk has to decide who's going to get this. So I think that if in the motion that are distributed to lower tier municipalities, including the chief building officers, I think if we add that, then we'll nail them on that. I think that's it. I did have one question. Oh, yes, I did have one. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the chief. And I think Anitra mentioned that it's not just high-rise buildings, that do you have a list of buildings, now it sounds silly, that you know that you have challenges in, so that if you're going into that for a response, that your incident commander, whoever is running that incident, knows that you are going to may have challenges within a certain building?
The short answer is we do have a list of areas within the region where we have challenges. I think it's addressed in the report with a very high percentage. We're able to get communication out, but there's that narrow percentage where we are not, and where we do have that list of areas. That list will likely grow if we don't address the issue. But yes, Steele, is there anything to add to that?
Thank you, Chief, and through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the list exists, and in fact, we have hazards. We've created hazards within our communication system. So the dispatch center, these locations are flagged so that it allows us to prepare for that, in that we would send additional officers to those locations to make sure. But the list is absolutely growing.
Great, thank you. One further follow-up through you, Mr.
Sure.
Chair. So with that, if there is I know with some, they put repeaters on roofs and things like that. I guess if you knew of a building, would you want to put a repeater on a roof? Or would you maybe, that's not going to solve the problem because it's the concrete, it's the glazing. Is that the problem? Because I'm saying if you have certain buildings, I'm going to use Vaughan, for example, that you have a problem with, maybe if we throw a repeater on the roof, would that give you the signal coming down?
Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the repeater would help, but it wouldn't necessarily solve the entire problem because it depends on the makeup of the building, the material, the height of the building. There's a whole lot of factors in play. So this is where part of these changes, that we have a holistic approach in identifying solutions from a technological perspective to support the communications from a safety perspective. So it would help, yes, but it depends on the building.
Through the chair, that's what I'm saying. I know that it's not going to be a perfect fix because but I'm saying in the interim, because it appears that this is going to take some, if they change, it's still going to take some time, but maybe there's opportunities to making it better, not perfect. So maybe
I
we
would
should-
agree. I would agree. And through this advocacy work, really, that's ultimately part of the goal here, is to have that building code changed so that there would be some language in there
Right,
that
but in the
the repair.
meantime, if we could if we could identify the repeaters, we can.
Sure.
Thank you, I'm done.
Okay, just pull your microphone up there, Mariel. I think it says on and off. Sure, perfect. Just so Steve can hear you. He's all down in Turks and Caicos, so just want to make sure he can hear you. That's far away.
Oh, he's here on the beach.
I've been 50 years in the building industry. So as far as changing the building code, this is not anything that needs to be changed. What we need to do, update our technology that the police to receive and communicate properly. Is not about changing the building code and go all to this bureaucracy and waste time and don't get nothing done. The key is we have to look at what technology is available that will satisfy York Regional Police, Metro, all the police across Canada, and understanding that, yes, you have to communicate at 60-story, 70-story. That's what is needed here. If we're gonna reinvent and go in a bureaucratic system, it takes years and you will never have what you need today to get your job done. That's what we need to do. Need to have some expertise and bring the top in the forward. And of course, builders, developers, they will implement the new technology. We're not gonna reinvent it. If you're gonna go to the provincial, the ministry and this and that, it will be years before you get anything done. So we have to look and take the bull by the horn, have the people, especially the chief, the expertise, what you need, bring it forward. There's so much technology today. You know, we have reached the moon with no problem talking to each other from here to there. Now we can talk to each other from a building to the floor of the police officer or firefighters. Like we always make a huge thing, it's a little thing. But to get it done, this is my opinion.
Sure. Walter?
Just a quick follow-on on this. One of the real problems is interagency communication over and above police communication. There's times that you folks need to talk to the fire guys or the EMS guys or other guys. So when you're doing your communications review, as my friend says, you've got to look in technology that accommodates all of that. Because if you suddenly need fire on the 60th floor, or if you need an ambulance service, that communication, that technology has to be forward leaning to the point that it overcomes the fact that you're already in separated bands and that there's a problem across municipal and boundary lines where you may need assistance from North York into a high rise that's in Vaughan. So I think, and I'm sure you're doing this, it's just an observation, but something that in my practical experience in interagency cooperation has often failed to the detriment of trying to address the problem.
Chief?
Mr. Chair, through you, thank you for the comments and questions and for the support. I truly think this is being proactive and getting ahead of the issue. And we do appreciate the support and guidance and from the board. What I will say, Walter, to your point, our current system allows for that. We can patch over to other police services. We can do that. That's not the issue. Yes, we can patch over. So our current system, which was about 20, well, it's 25. What's the age now, Paulo? 2015 was our last radio system. So we are looking at the new technologies. We are looking at all of that. I think it's an all hands on deck approach. I think there's issues that can be addressed by new technology. There's issues that can be addressed through the building code, and somehow we get to a place where we have a system where there is no dead spots, for argument's sake, if we'll call it that, right? So we'll continue to do our piece on this and work with our technical experts and hope to see change with this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, so I kind of heard Mario loud and clear, and I think you're right, Mario. We'll take, but we got to start with the province and Ontario Building Code. And I think with the changing, as long as Linda, you're okay by moving the resolution as amended with the amendments in there. But I'm wondering whether we could copy the build industry. We could send a copy of the build industry, but I'm wondering if it should be a different one. I'm wondering if it should be because of the technology. Mario's saying that the technology, we're going to the province on this one to get the province to change the code. But I think Mario's saying it can happen sooner if the build industry would allow us to allow the technology to be put in place as they build. But I'm not sure. I'm looking for your guidance because you two are on top of this and wondering what you think. We can copy the build industry in this resolution, but I think it's more to do with the technology that Mario's talking about.
There's so many professional architect, structure engineer that are been working with safety, fire. We have done many of them. They're so ahead of time, just a matter of implementing,
Yep.
put in this building what it needs to. That's all it did. But it's not a structure building code that the code has to, it would change the structure of the building. It's like when you put the cable of a telephone. We never used to have now. there's internet, it's not the changing of the building code.
No.
It's adding to improve.
Linda?
Thank you. Just through to the chair. Chairman, just following up on the point on build, I think it's an extremely good point. I think the whole key here is to make build and the buildings aware that there is a problem. A lot of these builders may not even know there's a problem. So I think the first step is advocacy and to saying, hey, you know, it's not just YRP, you know, maybe we lead this, but it's all emergencies, first responders and things throughout Ontario. But I think to get that out, I mean, Mario sits on Police Services Board, but if I was to call up a bunch of other very large end builders that I know personally and say, do you know that there's a problem with this, this and that? They have no clue. So maybe going to build, I think is a great idea, to try to just sort of say, hey, you know, I think, Chairman, I think it's an excellent idea. I don't know, I think maybe a motion that we could draft something to build. I don't, off the hop right now, I don't want to come up with something, but I think it's important that build is notified. And I believe that within build, there is a group that does advocacy within build, and I can't think of what they're called, but maybe, Chairman, if there was a motion, which I can certainly move, that a letter be created to go to build, just to raise the awareness of this issue throughout the GTHA, I think would be an important first step. And I do agree with Mario with respect to, yeah, it's going to take forever. Sure, everything's going to take forever, but I think we need to get out there and start waving the flags so that people know that there is, in the building industry, know there's an issue, and maybe there is a builder who will step forward and say, really, how can I make my building safer? And we don't need to go through the building code. We could just be, they could just do it themselves, right, Mario? Like, it's possible.
I think any builder, good builder that want to stay in business, they will apply and implement whatever. The key is to have a list from the chief or the from the firefighter. What is the list that you need? Give it in a, not just the builder, the people involved in the industry would say, let's solve it. But we don't have a list. What do we need to do? What do you need? Not that what you need to solve it, just say, this is the problem. And that list, if it's there, you can look at and resolve it.
Sure.
That's all it needs.
So I think the first one will do this one, Anitra.
Through the chair, just wanted to respond to Member Cortolucci's comment. So the next step, well, sorry, the concurrent step with this advocacy is to work on the list as we've discussed in the course of developing this report, Member Cortolucci. So that is the work that board staff will be doing together with YRPs, technical people, and building experts and OB's chief building officers here, as well as we will engage with fire chiefs in the region. And I've reached out to my counterparts at a couple of our adjoining boards to see if they would be willing to participate as well. And we'll see how that goes from there. But we expect that we'll start the work sometime within the next 30 days, if not sooner.
Linda?
So looking to you, Chairman, I would assume that you want an additional motion with respect to writing a letter to build, but I just leaned into Madeline. Of course, there's terms that we all use. And I said to Madeline, do you know what build is? And she didn't. So just for those who may be listening, it's the Building Industry and Land Development Association. So
Yeah.
I just, and my apologies. So we all talk in the lingo and then it's like, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, not everyone may understand what we're talking about. So I think it's important sometimes that we remember that there's people in the room or listening online who don't have a clue what we're talking about. So I know. So, Mr. Chairman, I think also an additional recommendation would be to direct staff to send a letter to build. And I'll leave it very open so you can decide what you're going to put in.
Sure.
And I would definitely love to continue to be involved in this process.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Please, when you send a letter to build,
We're always leading edge in the York Regional Police Association. We always lead. Flag. Okay, that completes the agenda. Is there any unfinished or other business you'd like to speak to? I just have a couple. The Auto Summit, and I think February the 8th. Unfortunately, that's our council day. And I'm wondering whether I have to sit at council, but I'm wondering, it would be great for a couple, maybe a board member or I don't know if the chief is going. Are you going, sir?
So I can provide a couple of comments to
Sure.
this, is that the announcement was made around the February 8th Auto Summit by the federal government. I've spoken to the Canadian Association of Chiefs president yesterday. They've not been invited. Being the OACP, we've not had an official invite yet. So letters will be drafted to the government officials, to public safety, to ensure that these entities are included in the summit. Nobody really seems to have any further information, Mr. Chair, on where it's happening. We know the date only. We know it's an auto summit, and it did say that various stakeholders would be engaged in the discussion. And that's really the only information. This comes as even a result of a phone call I had yesterday with the CACP. So there may be more coming. This is quite late in the game here to be starting. Like, as I've come to understand, it's happening in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Okay, where? We don't have any information. So I think as soon as we do, we'll be communicating to you through Anitra, obviously, and to try and get our ducks in a row and be there. I've got it flagged in my calendar, knowing that in all likelihood, they would want the OACP there to represent the Chiefs, but that's as far as what I know right now.
Okay, so someone from York Region will be attending. Oh, yeah, pardon? Okay, so as soon as we get all the particulars, yeah, but I mean, that'd be great. Because but I think we don't even know if it's in the afternoon. But it could even be in the afternoon, and we might all be able to go. We don't know much particular. So once we get information, tell you where and the timing of it and the date to make sure, we will provide that to you all. And if anybody's able, if we're allowed to go, if we're allowed to sound board members, that's the other thing. We may not even be invited. I don't know who's going to be invited, but it's been out in the news that this auto summit's coming. And I think we need to make sure that if we're invited, we should be able to go. Yeah, good. So the other one, members of the board, when we did the budget here back in December, there was quite a few comments and questions regarding the police from members of council. Really there were a few budget items, but there was more about the safety and what are we doing. So I've asked the chief and ELT team, I'd like them to come to council. I want them to come either May the 2nd or May the 30th. It's a Thursday, and it's going to be a morning, kind of like a workshop. The chief and the team will put on a presentation on where we're going forward, leading edge on what's happening in policing going ahead, and what's happening with the budget and bill and the new act, the Police Services Act coming out. So it's an in-person meeting with all members of council and the board. We're more than welcome. I'm going to bring the superintendents, everybody involved, and then we're going to have maybe a coffee hour after. It'll be a couple hours long, and we will they'll be able to speak to everyone that's here. The police is coming forward, and it'll be a presentation on everything that the chief and them want to bring forward. Linda.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that's an excellent idea. I'm just, it's unfortunate it's May. Can we not? I guess I'd prefer it to be March, April. I think, Chairman, how do I say this tactfully? Because I'm not always that tactful. I think that there is a lot of challenges with not only members of regional council, but members of our own local councils who are saying and doing things that just really aren't appropriate. And I think that they need to be, shown the light, for lack of better words. I think they need to fully understand what is going on. We have, I have a fairly good grasp of what's going on, but I make it my job to know what's going on. I always want to be engaged and involved and know. But I think that there's misinformation being spread by ward counselors. I have one in Vaughan who I'm dealing with. Wrong information, well-meaning, but if you don't have the right information, don't put it out on your social media when you have 10,000 people following you. So I think it's important that we have this, but Chairman, to my point is that I think this would be excellent for regional, but I think that this should be opened up to all members of all 9 councils. Have them come, they can sit out here wherever we're gonna do it, have everybody come, because I think they need to hear it, even though I know that it's not the ward, but they're all ward counselors are thinking that they can, I think they need to be aware, even though that's not their role. I think that we need to educate them. I think we need, and everyone needs to be out here, but I really would wish that it would be earlier. But I think they have to understand what YRP can do, what they can't do, and what they're doing, and covert and undercover work that is going on, that, there's a lot more going on. I mean, you just had another chief, congratulations to you and your team just the other day, a big olive theft recovery. You had 2 in the last 3 weeks. It's like, I thought I was reading the same one over. It's like, oh no, this is a new one. Congratulations to your team. But I think that it's important that the message is communicated to all. If they choose not to show up, Chairman, that's their choice.
But I really, I was doing it at regional council. It's a workshop. I have no problem. It's open to it's open. So anybody can come. So I'm not saying that it's exclusive just for regional council. I can only do the stuff in this house. Now, if the rest of the local councils want to come and listen to it, they're more than welcome.
But to the chair, wouldn't an invitation coming from the chair of the police services boards to the clerks of all months, inviting all members
Yeah.
of council?
Sure.
Wouldn't that, instead of just me saying to my colleagues, my 4 or 5 ward councillors, hey, come on along. Like, I think it looks, I think the optics is nice, Chairman, that you want to be inclusive. Whether they come, it's their own choice, but I think it's important that we start educating all members of council, because I found that some of the comments disappointing. Unfortunately, I wasn't at that committee, but I find some of the comments extremely disappointing, and it just shows they're just not knowledgeable. I don't want to use the word ignorant, but they just don't have the knowledge to understand and what to say it and when to say it, Chairman. So but I do wish it could be sooner than May. I'm sorry
No.
that I've rambled on a little bit, but I was trying to choose my words carefully. Normally I just
I know,
spew
but
it out, but I'm not doing that today.
I run it by the chief last week. I said, I'd like to do this. I wanna be proactive, wanna be out front, I wanted to bring it in. So I like your suggestion. I have no issue whatsoever sending it to the clerks and sending it to the individual. I have no issue with that. The issue is that we have a new act coming in place April 1st. And the chief, I want to make sure chief says he's got a good handle on the act, but there are some changes that could affect our police services. So I'm not trying to delay it, but there's stuff happening all the time. So the chief would speak to it, but I think if I go to May 2nd, yes, that's 3 months away, but I want to make sure we're ready. And the chief says his presentation will be about an hour long. And then go from there. So, Chief, you have some comments on it?
Yeah, just very briefly. I can appreciate wanting to do it sooner. One thing to be aware of, Deputy De Silva and his team and the superintendents around all of the districts are going out to all municipal councils this year with presentations that will assist. So this has been one of the directions we've taken for this year to address some of these issues, and at a more grander scale. Yes, I did speak to the chairman, and I haven't even had an opportunity to sit down with the deputies and see what that looks like yet. But we think this is a great opportunity for us to come and talk not only about today, what do we see coming in the future? What is the landscape for policing here in York Region into the future? And so the team will do a lot of research and bring about a lot of information to help everyone understand the challenges, but also all of the opportunities we have in relation to technology, innovation, talking about places like Vaughan building up and what's going on there, like population growth, density, all of that stuff will be part of the presentation, along with the new act and what does that mean for policing? What does that mean for a community? So we're excited about the idea of doing this. We will need that time to get prepared for that for sure. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that it's not in absence of any other work being done, and Paulo's team will be coming out to councils to do that. So thank you,
Yep.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just to follow up, thank you, Chief, and I appreciate that. And I forgot about the new act, but that does make sense now. But I guess my question is through you, to the chief or to Deputy De Silva. Coming out to the 9 minutes, it's fantastic. Maybe we then don't have to invite them.
No.
You know, not that I'm being, we could, but when are you planning to start this sort of, dog and pony show or, circling the the wagons?
Yep.
And through you, Chairman Emerson, some of the council meetings have already started. So we've done our first one in EG. There's a follow-up one that is happening. We recently, I attended a town hall in Markham, so they are planned throughout the year. The goal is to get them accomplished within the first 6 months of 2024.
Excellent. This is through the chairman. I would suggest that if you go, when you come to Vaughan, request to present at a working session. Because you'd be allowed more than 5 minutes, then we can have some wholesome conversations. If you were to come to our committee of the whole, it would not be worth your time. I think that coming to a working session, I think would be extremely important for us. So, and I can definitely help you through the chair with that. But the request would just be to our clerk to make a presentation to a working session of council.
Thank you for that suggestion. We'll
Okay.
definitely go through.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Chairman.
But it's okay. No, it's just something that I wanted to bring it to you, as I wanted to say, I think it's a good thing to do, and going forward, it'll be like a regular, York Region Council workshop, open to the public. I'm hoping, well, I'm not saying I don't want any of the public coming, but it's more or less, I want the regional councils to really put names to faces and have a look and see where we're going with this. And I think a couple of members of council said, well, when do we get to see the 2024 police services budget? And this is going to give an opportunity to have an idea of what's going forward. Yes, Linda? Well, they did it. I know, I hear it. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'll further that in February. But I'm leaning towards May the 2nd. I just want to make sure I can announce tomorrow at regional council, but I got to make sure the clerk and I run it by the senior management team yesterday, but I think I said May 30th, but I think I'd like to move it to May 2nd. It's an off Thursday but it's a morning session, and but it's in person only. There is no virtual, and it'll be a nice weather. It could be raining, but it won't be snow. At least I don't think there'll be or foggy. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. And Nitra, anything else we got to do before I go in camera at this time? Nope. Moved by Mayor Pellegrini and seconded by Madeline that we go into private session going forward. All those in favor? Against, the motion's carried.